I'd be lying if I said that we weren't wanting to push boundaries as much as possible here, because we really believe what Cura is doing.
I look forward to these sessions every week because I get to flex that creative part of my brain that I don't normally get to.
Traditionally, you have limestone, it goes in a big oven, you heat it up to really high temperatures, it uses loads of energy, and then that separates into lime and carbon. The carbon usually goes in the atmosphere, and then some companies taking the carbon and then storing that. But what these guys are doing is they're not using heat, and they are using electrochemical process, which is where you submerge the limestone into a solution, like an electrolyte solution, and then you pass electricity through it, that separates the lime from the carbon. They capture the carbon so it's not released into the atmosphere, and then they store and sequester the carbon or reuse that. So this is the Cura case study, and I just want to take you back to the challenge that we had on our hands here. Now, the cement industry accounts for around 8% of the world's global emissions, and it's often compared to, in a similar light to the oil industry, a massive negative impact on the planet, and just an industry you can never really imagine changing. And it quickly became apparent to us then that this wasn't just around how do we explain a new and frontier technology, but how do we paint a story and build belief that this industry can be changed through the work that Cura is doing. And the original brief was, we need a new brand identity, we need a new website. But as we started to jump into things, we quickly realized there was some real commercial objectives here. And ultimately, this is so they could get buy-in from investors and partners, and therefore achieve adoption and achieve and realize the impact that they set out to get. So I just want to show you a before state here of how Cura looked before. So this is a founder-built brand identity. We've got a pretty grayscale theme running through on the website. And we also have this core teal, which they were pretty adamant that they wanted to keep to begin with. For those that don't know Cura, they have an absolute powerhouse of a team. There's 3 co-founders, and they have huge traction and huge momentum. And what they didn't want to do was destroy any of that recognizability that they'd built, any of that brand equity. And I just want to take you to a snapshot we did of the category. You can see here that the competitors in the space, it's pretty monotonous. We've got a monochromatic black and white theme going on with a punch of teal or blue. Though they were pretty adamant on keeping the color to begin with, that was one of the most obvious ways which we felt that we could signal from the get-go that Cura is different. Some of the other key insights that came up was the kind of ambiguous and abstract imagery, just of like nature, lakes, mountains, things of that nature. If we come through, we'll see a lot more of that here with kind of these sunsets. And then pairing that with really industrial imagery that again feels quite distant. And finally, the typography, it just felt very corporate. So we really wanted to move away from that feeling. So we looked into the process, the materials, and taking limestone, which is the material they work with, from where you find it in nature through to how it's mined, and then how it ends up in the end product being cement. And we felt like by using the different formats that we could really build a picture of tangibility. But we wanted to pair that with something which was grounded in reality, right? So the built world, resonance, everyday life, bringing in bridges, buildings, and the end product that cement goes into. And we created 3 different territories here that interpreted this slightly different. And as you'll see, mood board direction 3 is where we started to take things, where we've got the tangibility of the textures and materials coming through, paired with real life imagery and these kind of warm terracotta and orange hues, paired with the warm greys coming through that would really give a stark contrast between the competition as it currently stands. The logo design was something that the client wanted to keep. It was a founder created word mark, and we felt like we could just tighten up some of the details, make it flow a bit better, clean up some of the rough edges. We did explore a lot of logo marks because our job as designers is to be divergent in our thinking and think around how can we create a logo system, something that is a mark that's standalone. So we started to look into electricity from the electrochemical process, this kind of curve to show the change in state and flow in nature of their technology as well. and then removal, which is CO2 being removed from cement. And this is this hollow form we see here. So there was quite a few different iterations on this.
This project started actually as we've just hired our new project manager. So we are going through some internal things with just sort of optimizing these review cycles. So what I'm going to suggest we do is let's get this wrapped up as far as the logo is concerned. I'm going to go away, remap everything so that everyone's got visibility of when things are going to be sent to you guys, the review periods, and we can all understand when we would like to sort of go live. How does that sound?
Sounds great. No, really appreciate it. And thank you guys.
Phil, you're the one that created that initial word mark. Have you got a strong position on which one kind of jumped out at you the most?
Number 3, now that we look at it a little bit more, I think it is a little bit more heavier on the negative space. When it's under a black background, I really like the way that looks. Yeah. But number 1, I think, is my favorite, my personal favorite.
I would say I like number 1, second from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I like the heavier mark of the horseshoe.
My concern is that very much could be misconstrued as a lot of other things, right? If you just have
exactly.
Does it scream Cura? Whereas I think something like, and again, I don't want to push us down any particular direction, but for example, number 1, I feel like is such a strong mark. If you were to have that on a cap, again, with a little bit of time in the wild, that could very much carry some of the equity there that people look at that and recognize Cura for it.
Ultimately, we decided to move forwards with just the word mark on its own. We felt like it was strong enough to carry the brand, and it worked in a lot of the mock-ups that we trialed. And one of the earlier iterations we had for the brand, which we ended up moving away from, was this one just here. It carried some of the elements that we discussed early on in the mood board directions. It had these warmer tones, though the reds weren't quite as warm and welcoming as we felt. It also had a serif font, which is something that was drastically different to anything that existed and felt more like a consumer brand. And this brings us to the final version of the brand. This is what we ended up running with. We have a lot more of these warmer terracotta hues coming in, with some different kind of shades for contrast. We also have the warmer kind of slate and stone greys coming through as well. And we paired that with this kind of technology green here, which feels a lot more airy and lighter and creates space and that kind of perception of something being removed and good for the planet. We also paired that with a font from Pangram called Framer, and this felt like it had a much nicer balance between something which was friendly and welcoming and maybe consumer tech, but also something that was a little bit more corporate and had a bit more credibility towards that. Adding these kind of stone fragments to signal the fragments that come off when limestone is being mined allowed us to add this kind of floaty nature to the website and some of the other key visual language to signal that this is light, that it's removing something. And again, this is where we combine that with those real built world imagery pieces and are able to kind of show the end product that cement is responsible for and to paint the better future that Cura is working towards. And by doing this, we were able to create a brand which really stands out in the category. It looks and feels different and is signaled different from the get-go. And it looks like nothing else out there. Obviously, this is not limited to how it looks and how it feels, but also the communication came into this piece as well. How they communicate, the language they use, and something that feels a lot more resonant and simple without any of the kind of industry jargon that is typically associated with the industry as well. So we're really able to develop a brand which looked and sounded different to the category and was capable to show up as a category leader. From this, we were able to create brand guidelines, which were able to ensure that the brand was used with integrity and was rolled out with consistency across all different touch points. And we also created some announcement posts and helped them to launch a partnership campaign to get that initial momentum running, to launch the rebrand into the world, and to show the new face that is going to lead the charge for decarbonising the cement industry. And by the end of the project, Cura had a brand which felt credible, it felt at the level of their ambition, and something that they could confidently take into investor conversations, partnership discussions, and also those early commercial opportunities. So hopefully that gives you a clearer look into how we approach these kinds of complex situations where that frontier ambition needs to change the face of a category and redefine how a category shows up. And if you're into this kind of thinking, then we'll be sharing a lot more of this coming up. We've got loads more projects that are in the pipeline that we're just finishing off and carry their own different nuances and challenges that we're trying to help solve with the brand work that we do. So if you're looking forward to that, make sure you subscribe, you hit the like button, and follow the Frontier Studio Hours. Peace.
These are my memoirs. Light up a cigar, smoke up the memories as I sit and dust them off. Why do people say it's just to piss you off? Ignore them, no call button, and then dress too par. Now they can't test the guard.